Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're back again this week talking about episode 534, Something Blue, Part 2. This episode aired November 22nd of 2003. Mm-hmm. It is the final episode we will be covering in the Mitch and Connie arc. Mm-hmm. It is... what it's written and directed by Kathy Buchanan.
Yeah!
That's the part I missed. Oh, and I've got stuff to talk about
in the official guide?
From the official guide. So I specifically looked out for it this episode, even though it was true of last episode. This episode is credited to written by Kathy Wirenga and directed by Kathy Buchanan. And that is because in between writing and directing this, she got married.
That's a sore subject right now.
Yeah.
Fun fact, though.
Rest in peace, Mr. Buchanan. On a serious note.
Let that be. No.
But yeah, so I keep turning away from the mic. I'm sorry, listeners.
You're doing great.
I'm going to read from the official guide here because I found this very interesting.
Everybody's favorite part of the podcast is Dylan reading to them.
I really... Now you're making me self-conscious.
No, I love it. I actually love it.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a great bit because 99% of this podcast is us just talking to each other, and this is somebody else in the room. It's a book.
All right. So yeah, this is on the Something Blue episodes. Writer and director Kathy Wirenga, who joined the team in 1999, got married after she wrote, but before she directed the show Something Blue. As a result, the show is written by Kathy Wirenga and directed by Kathy Buchanan. And then this is a quote from Kathy. It was really interesting to be in the last couple weeks of planning my wedding while I was writing about Connie calling off hers. I remember Sean, my then fiance, now husband, now deceased, coming into the coffee shop where I was writing and finding me in tears because I just felt so bad for her.
What a good writer.
Yeah. And then there's more stuff in the guide, but I think I'm going to actually hit it as it occurs throughout the episode.
Sounds good.
So yes.
Do we have any voice credits?
Yeah. Let's hit on voice credits. So the big one for this episode is the big guest appearance is George Barkley showing up again. So he's voiced by Chuck Bolte.
What a good guy.
Longtime voice actor on the show, and then executive produced for a while, directed some episodes, all that stuff. So that's him. And then the only other guest voice appearance that we haven't hit on before is the director of the kazoo choir is played by our boy, Corey Burton.
Gotta love him. He does so... Oh my gosh, that voice.
I love him.
Handel's Messiah.
I love him so much for just constantly showing up.
And that voice.
Yeah.
That man's clearly very short.
Yeah.
And has like wispy hair.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the computer program Music Ace?
No.
Okay, so that's like homeschool shout out for anybody out there.
I imagine it's most of you.
There's this computer program that the K-12 curriculum uses to teach you music theory. It's called Music Ace, and there's a short man that's bald and has like a big bushy mustache, and he's like a conductor, and he goes bellissimo, and that's and in my head, this choir director looks and talks exactly like him.
That's funny.
I really hope the listeners get that, because otherwise, I just explain the bit, which is like the worst part of comedy.
The other thing to note for this episode is that the album version has an additional 6 minutes off of the radio version.
That makes a lot of sense. That's 29 minutes long.
It's a 29-minute episode.
I was shocked.
The airing is 23, and it's not that there is any in particular scene that they add. Rather, all of the scenes are longer.
Did they just add the dialogue or what?
Yeah. So there's just extra scenes. There's 7 scenes that are extended throughout the episode. And then there's an additional, the ending bit with Connie and Whit talking in the car is not on the broadcast version.
Okay.
It just ends with her saying bye to Mitch in the airport.
That is interesting.
Which,
I like the
think
addition
that
for the
scene
album.
is very important.
Yeah, and I guess for ad time they had to cut it off.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's exactly it. A broadcast episode of this show clocks in at 23 minutes.
Yeah.
They can occasionally fudge that a little bit, but 6 minutes is a lot to fudge.
Yeah.
And also at this point, they're like, back when they were doing cassette albums, they didn't really do the extent. Like, it's only been since kind of the late 90s that they've been putting out these extended versions of episodes. And so I think the fact that they know that they're going to do that now, like at this point in the show, gives them a little bit more where they
can
be willing
flesh
to
stuff
do
out.
that.
Yeah. I can't imagine this episode's 6 minutes shorter. It's so packed.
Yeah, and it's all important
It's
stuff.
like it's all really like there's not much fluff. Like it.
Yeah.
Huh. There's well, we should roll the promo first.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Can you believe it? Connie and Mitch are getting married this Saturday. Friends arrive, the cake is ordered, the flowers are ready. But is Connie?
So, FBI man, ready for some fun?
What are you doing? Oh! Get Borland. Mitch has been kidnapped.
Will the I-do's become oh-no's? Find out on the next Adventures in Odyssey.
Will the I-do's become oh-no's?
That is such a forced bit.
I agree.
Oh,
And
gosh.
there's a lot of, I don't know. I don't know. The promo I don't think really adds anything.
No.
They play up the kidnapping
Yeah.
a little bit more than the episode does, but not really. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty across the board. The narrator's not doing a whole lot,
No.
and the music is solid.
It's the same music as last time, right?
Yeah,
Love is in the air.
Yep, it's very
Wishy-washy.
well, it sounds like the music that they would play on the promo for any wedding episode on any show in the 2000s.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right.
Like, I imagine if you pulled out the wedding episode of Gilmore Girls, it would have that same promo. Or the Gilmore Girls promos are notoriously weird. So,
I haven't seen any of them. Is that
Yeah.
a thing? They have promos?
yeah, I mean, every show had promos that would air like the same way these ones air on the radio.
Yeah.
You'd have promos that aired in between other shows.
Interesting.
commercial breaks.
What a part of television that I never really experienced. Cause
Well, yeah, and it's
I'm too young.
Yeah, grew up in the streaming age.
Yeah, I mean,
You're not quite.
I
at
was
that
like
tier, but
11 or 12 when like streaming, like that was like when we got Netflix, and like because we had Netflix streaming, like we went straight to that.
gotcha.
And then after that, like, yeah, I really love, but like most of my childhood was all watching TV, but they never had that for stuff like the channels that I watched, which was like,
Right.
you know, Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and whatever, but not Cartoon Network apparently, because that's of the devil. My parents were so interesting with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, look how you turned out.
That's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. Depending on who you talk to, might get different answers. Self-esteem at an all-time high here, guys. We're gonna chug on forward.
Okay, sounds good. So the only other thing I wanted to mention is the clever name of Something Blue.
Yeah.
It's like a triple meaning because one, we have to have a color
Yeah.
because this is the
Color
color saga. Two, Something Blue because of the wedding rhyme. Mm-hmm. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. First introduced to me in Thomas, and then again in Doctor Who.
Thomas, like the tank engine?
Yeah,
Okay. That would be where I learned it.
yeah. But also Something Blue because it's a sad ending.
Oh, I was thinking like the blue of the FBI.
No, I think that is.
That's
I think that's
definitely-
reading too far into it.
Yeah.
I think it is. Hey, we've got to color a wedding, and as a bonus,
It's sad. Boys, it's sad. Girls as well. Sad. Very sad. It's a great episode, though. Thesis statement, dynamite episode.
Yeah. Spoiler right out of the gate. I freaking love this thing.
It's so good. It's like Odyssey at its finest, maybe? I don't know. It's up there.
Yeah.
It's real good. It's
Yep.
real good.
Big fan. It starts out on a perfect note with the combination wedding music Odyssey theme.
Yeah.
There's the aired version has a recap tacked onto the front, but the album version has nothing.
Yeah.
Like it starts
Just
up with
jumped
music and we don't get cold open, nothing. It's nice and easy for me editing this episode.
Very nice. That is such a... Never mind. I'm not gonna discuss the meta narrative of the show right now. It's good though. I really like it, and the music is really good. It jumps right in, and it's to Joanne and
It's Connie frantically making wedding plans.
oh yeah. Connie frantically making wedding plans because she's getting married in 3 days,
yeah.
and nothing's available. And
Yeah.
Joanne's there, right?
Yeah. Yep. And so it's Joanne looking, like, researching the compass, and Connie making all these calls to photographers not being available. One guy laughing at her when he finds out that it's Saturday and they're booked like 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Which seems modest.
Yeah. For flowers, good lord.
Yeah. This is
For
pictures, but
yeah,
still.
photography, same thing. Same thing.
Yeah. And so the next person she's gonna call is Mugshots by Molly.
Yeah.
Which is a funny joke
I
that
love
sticks
the
with me.
I love the running bit in this episode with just like the weird names and like the small business stuff, because
Yep.
like later it comes up with like a pet funeral service.
Yep.
And she wants flowers, but not in the shape of a dog bone.
Yep.
Like, it's great.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then, so last episode, Joanne was offered, what was it, $12,000?
$12,000
for the compass.
was not just offered, paid and
Yeah,
accepted.
was paid and accepted $12,000 by this random collector that Janelle knew, and
Yep.
she's
Bernstein, voiced by Curry Burton.
and not Holstein.
Nope,
Odyssey.
different man.
Think of different names, please.
Ending someone's name in Steen is not a trope.
Well, because they sound similar.
Oh, you're saying their voices?
Yeah, their
sound
voice similar, and they.
Yeah, I mean they're both accents,
Yeah.
which is not Odyssey's strong suit.
No. Well, I wouldn't say that it's really anybody in the Midwest strong suit.
But I mean, Odyssey's recorded in L.A.
It's recorded in L.A.? I thought it was Colorado Springs, Colorado.
I could be wrong, but I think all the voice work's done in LA, and it's just written
What?
and produced in
Focus on-
and with Focus on the Family in Colorado Springs.
That's nuts.
Write
That makes
into
a
me
lot-
if I'm wrong.
Yeah, please explain this
But, like,
to us. I would very much appreciate to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we get so like Joanne's like kind of torn up about it because she researches and finds out that like this is actually fake.
Yep, the
And so
compass
she's
is
accepted
definitely
this
fake.
money, and she feels guilty about it, and Connie's like, well, couldn't this be, God providing for you? And Joanne's like, no, like
It's
God
dishonest.
doesn't. Yeah, God doesn't do that. Like, it's
And-
dishonest.
Is it dishonest?
No, I don't think so. And I think that this episode kind of proves that like a little bit.
Yeah, it's the right. Excusing the fact that it's all set up anyways.
Yeah.
She did raise an objection and bring up the fact that another guy had looked at it and said
Yeah.
it was worthless.
Yeah. And then
And
this
this
man
guy's
claims
an
that he's an expert.
expert.
Yeah. So you think that you're smarter than the expert? Like,
Right.
and that, like I mean, that, like, what do you think? Like, this is some sort of God, like, baiting you to take money? Like, I'm confused
Yeah.
as to what she's putting there, but oh well. Larger theological issues aside, Joanne's concerned.
Yeah. Yep. And then doorbell rings, and who walks in, Andrew?
I believe it's Sir John Avery Whittaker.
And June Kendall.
And June Kendall.
Yeah, I don't think Whit's a sir, but he definitely should be.
At this point,
That
yes.
seems like something that would be. I would if they just dropped
Threw
that.
it
I'd be
in
like,
there.
oh yeah, he's
course-
not British, but of course they knighted him.
Of course he got
He's
knighted.
the only,
Yeah.
the only non-British
Well, there's a big
citizen that
like
they
there's
knighted.
yeah. There's a big later like.
Although, is his stepmom British?
I think she's Scottish
Oh, she is Scottish
or something.
So
like
that's part of the UK.
yeah.
So he could. Yeah, I don't.
He
I
could
don't-
probably apply for a dual citizenship and be knighted. As
Yeah,
a
maybe.
result.
This is too much for this tangent.
No, I
What-
think it's just
cut,
enough.
I cut you off. What were you saying?
Yeah, this is like the first time we've heard Wit in 6 episodes.
5, 4, 5, something like that.
Yeah.
Since he hasn't been in since Here Today Gone Tomorrow Part 3.
Yes.
He hasn't been in any of the Color Saga. No, wait,
all.
he was in Seeing Red, the first of the Color
Oh,
Saga.
yeah.
So he's just been Black Cloud, Silver Lining, and Pink
Yeah.
Is Not My Color, and Part
Yeah.
1. So 4 episodes.
Which is a lot for not having
That
Wit.
is still a lot.
Especially
No.
considering what we've been coming from.
Three of those 4 did have Wit intros.
Yeah, just so he could meet his contract. Which definitely not a thing.
Oh no, I love
Which
it.
is
I
the
love
funny
that as our
thing is
headcanon.
this episode that actually has Wit, we didn't get.
We didn't get any intro.
Didn't we get a Connie intro for
Nope.
the last episode?
Oh, for the last episode we did. Yes.
Yeah. So if this is a 2-parter that actually has Wit in it, we don't actually have Wit in the intro.
Sure.
Whatever. Moving on.
It is a 2-parter, but it's not one of the, I don't know.
it doesn't have an intro.
Right. But some of the 2-parters feel as though they're one episode cut in half, and
Yeah.
this does feel like 2 episodes.
Yeah, definitely 2 episodes.
Yeah. Whereas Here Day Gone Tomorrow, I think, is 1 episode split into thirds.
Yes. The Hobbit? Anybody? The Hobbit?
Stop. But
Still
good.
sore about that.
Yeah. Man, that movie's bad. All 3.
All 3 of them.
And then we get a surprise. So Whit
Yeah.
and June are there,
Yeah.
and they're talking about Connie's talking about trying to find bookings and whatnot, and mentions that they haven't found a pastor yet.
Yeah.
And Whit's like, oh,
Bum bum bum.
guess
George
who
Barkley.
I brought with me? It's George Barkley. He's been waiting outside until you said we
didn't-
need a pastor.
Yeah.
Which is something that Whit did not know, but
No.
I do. I love it. It doesn't make sense.
No,
But I love it.
no, because Wit either brings him by to congratulate her, or and is just winging it on the spot, or Wit is God and knows that she doesn't have a pastor.
Right. But it sounds like George might even be coming for the wedding.
Well, he's
Like-
already in the area.
Yes. He was coming through the area, and Whit met up with him and decided to drag him along to this. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And then he's like, "You're working this wedding because I just found out that Connie doesn't have a pastor."
yeah. So background for those who are just listening along
Mm-hmm.
with us. George Barkley, early character in the show. The
Yeah.
Barkleys were kind of the first family that
Yeah.
Odyssey focused on.
Yeah, he was like the first dad
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah,
Really
and so, George and Mary Barkley, and then their kids, Donna and Jimmy, were like the Odyssey staples. Like they
Yeah.
were
So like
who things
Charlie Brown kind
revolved
of like,
around.
Yeah.
And then they moved off to George left to be a pastor at a church in a place called Pokenberry Falls.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where their story ended.
And they're one of the few examples in the show where like characters are very clearly written in and written out.
Yeah, they do have a more defined end than a lot of characters.
Yeah.
But also they bring them back and that sort of thing. Like they do sometimes a character Odyssey decides, okay, either that kid has grown up or that character's not interesting or we're just like not dealing with that anymore. And they just kind of
Drop them.
Right. They're completely dropped and never addressed again.
Yeah.
And with the Barkleys, they're very much still a part of the universe.
Yeah.
Whereas like Sarah is just like,
Where'd
just
she
doesn't
go?
exist anymore.
She's doing cocaine somewhere. She's gone off the deep end. She doesn't love Jesus anymore. We can't talk about her.
Wow. None of that is in the show, even subtextually. But
No.
apparently, hire Andrew, focused on the family
To
for the
finish all your
Sarah
character.
Pratchett cocaine storyline.
Yeah. I'll finish all your I guess closed character arcs.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be bonkers.
They kill off Tom Riley, right?
Yes.
And do they kill off Bernard?
I don't know.
I don't think they kill off Bernard.
Yeah, I just have not kept up with the show.
My magnum opus can be finishing Bernard's story arc.
Okay. Yeah. But the thing with Sarah is you should hunt down that voice actress and make like a bootleg, because she's still alive. Just make a bootleg Sarah adventure.
Yes. Oh my lord. Oh, I do not have any means or time to do that, but that is so tantalizing.
That could
just
be
the
your
kind
calling
of thing.
card.
Yeah.
Honestly, hire me. I made this bootleg wherein I took a character that you discarded and I made her into a monster. Hire me.
I created a six episode subplot where we explore drug addiction and recovery. And also Satanism.
So yeah, George is that character, and he mentions that he's coming down to DC to visit Jimmy, his son, who's working in DC now. And that actually gets explored in the episodes that follow this that we are not covering, but they kind of round the color saga out, which is Living in the Gray part 1 and part 2, which we just decided not to do because they're not really it's the end of Connie's road trip, but it's barely Mitch, and I don't know. We're getting a little bit fatigued with Novacom stuff, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, well, and the Connie and Mitch
Chalk
arc
Squad.
is really long.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah. We've done this is our 12th
bonus
Connie
episode.
and Mitch episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna finish up with this one, and I think it's a good one to end on.
Oh, it's a dynamite episode.
We
to
don't
end
need,
on.
because the Connie and Mitch stuff is our Novacom aftermath. We do not need to cover Connie and
Mitch aftermath. Exactly. Yeah.
That would be aftermathception, and I'm just not about that.
The aftermath from aftermath.
Yeah, and then so Connie gets to go off to the side and have a conversation with her mom.
Yeah.
In which she finds out that her dad is not coming.
Yeah.
To her wedding. It's too late notice. He's already got plans to spend the weekend with his new girlfriend's parents.
Yeah. Which, oy.
Yeah.
Oh well. I mean, he's never really been in the picture.
No, it is. Yeah. It's
unsurprising at the least.
But so in character.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense, and it
given this situation
almost would have felt like a cheat if he had shown up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
also, he's just such a mess. They did not need to add that into an already heavy episode
Bonkers.
with a lot of stuff. There's so much that happens in this episode. The last thing we needed is Connie's disaster.
Connie's dad's here.
Beowulf.
And so we get this conversation with June and Connie, where June's like, do you actually want to marry Mitch? When we last talked, what's going on? When we last talked, things weren't good, and then you called me 3 days ago, and things still weren't good, and now you're marrying him, and what has changed? And Connie's very kind of reassuring of her mom, I really love him. I've loved him all along. This is good because she basically kind of declares this is what is good for me, and that's to be with him.
Yeah, her line is, he knows where he's going in life, and I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate June in this moment.
Yeah.
For having the conversation.
Yeah.
But also not pressing it.
No,
She doesn't get mad.
Yeah.
She doesn't lay out an ultimatum.
She
or
doesnt
tell
throw
Connie
herself into
she's wrong.
Yeah.
She's just
even though it very clearly appears irrational, at least.
Yeah, I love the point she raises where she's basically just what changed?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago or a week, whatever it was that she left to drive there. Like, what happened?
4 weeks ago in Chalk Squad time.
Yeah, like, or 5. It doesn't matter. I hate this bit. But like, yeah, that she left, and like, with things being in not a great place, and things were in an iffy place even before that, even before Mitch moved down there.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, this episode kind of just revitalizes the conversations that happened last time they wanted to get married, where Connie was like, look, like, you're heading to the FBI. We don't know what that's going to be like. Like, I'm not ready for this. I want to stay here. And that's that. Yeah. And now we're jumping forward in time. What, we decided 16 weeks? Is that how I think that was what was said about
something
how
that,
long Mitch has been in DC. So we've jumped ahead that much time, and we're kind of in the same place, except this time Connie's saying yes. And yeah, that's just like, I'm glad that June raises those points, and I'm also glad that she doesn't off poorly in raising
well,
because
it's an invitation to be holier than thou and to speak down to her, and she just didn't, which is
she's
awesome.
Coming at it purely out of love and wanting what's best
and
for
concern,
her daughter, but also trusting her daughter to make the right choice and not feeling like I've got to make the choices for my kid.
Well, and also like the idea,
great.
I think that Connie saying no in the first place, like the first time he asked her, was like kind of a big deal for this, and in this arc, like, I think June Caesar says something like, oh, well, clearly you aren't caught up in it. She is. But clearly you aren't, like, caught up in it because you said no last time and you could have said no again. Like you, it's not just the idea of getting married. Like, you actually really want this. Anyway, Connie's very reassuring, and then the conversation kind of ends.
So we jump then to it's the commercial break, and we come back in on Asian music.
Yeah, like
I don't know how. I'm sure there's a more tactful way to say it or to like describe the style.
No, it's Chinese music.
Yes,
like Chinese, like
yes.
Except for it's Odyssey's appropriation of it, which is as close to that as possible while not infringing on whatever copyrights exist.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And then it's like, oh, they're at a sushi restaurant. And June has maybe the most concerning anecdote of this series. She says, as an aside, Connie tried to make sushi once when she was a girl. That poor goldfish.
Yeah.
Did Connie kill a goldfish
to make sushi?
Or did she wrap the live goldfish in soup?
My guess is that she like found out that sushi was a raw fish. She likes raw fish, takes goldfish out, puts it in rice, rolls it up.
But is she going to eat her pet? Is that her plan?
Maybe she gave it to her mom.
The goldfish doesn't survive this, does it?
No. The goldfish is definitely dead.
This is
because in one thing it drowns to death in air,
right?
Or it.
I think that's called suffocation.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's definitely the word. Drowns to death in air. I was literally thinking of the word suffocation. Like, what does that mean without the word?
You're fine. It's great. I love it. But yeah.
Or she like cuts its head off, skins it, and then serves it on like.
It's so concerning. I was like,
it's such a tiny fish to eat. Like if she had like a koi fish or something like that like
even
had
then
some meat on it.
So we just get like that's like a serial killer move. Like that's a move that they'd be like, because like torturing animals is one of the like trifecta signs for a serial killer. That's totally something that I could see. It is such a disturbing notion that's just like it is an anecdote, and it kind of has me freaked out.
Oh yeah,
but whatever.
Oh yeah,
I get that it's a joke, but it is.
I'm worried still though.
Unsettling joke.
I still don't like it.
And then and so Mitch comes into dinner. It's George and June and Whit and Mitch and Connie. Yep. Are the Borlands there as well?
No,
I don't.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because but they come to the rehearsal dinner.
Yes, And so they're...
Is this the rehearsal dinner?
No, this is not the rehearsal dinner. This is just they're going to get dinner to talk about things because, everyone's in town. So Mitch is there, and so George and Mitch are talking about his work at the FBI, and Whit gives... no, this isn't even the... Yes. Yeah. Whit presents Connie with a gift from the kids at Whit's End.
Yeah.
Which
is really sweet.
Yeah.
It's like a box of, like, mementos.
Well,
kinda,
it's I think it's a collage of notes and pictures.
Yeah. That's
From
exactly what it
people
is.
like Liz and Mandy and Jared and Marvin and like it's super.
It's really
super cool.
cute. Like I'm imagining like shoebox type situation, like with glue stick pictures and stuff like that, and it's filled with notes and Whit's talking like, oh, they scrambled together to get it in time for me to bring to you.
Yep.
And Connie's like, oh man, I miss those kids. I can miss the kids at Whit's End. And then she says, well, I guess there won't be a Whit's End in Budapest, will there?
Yeah.
And it's kind of this notable like point where Connie's like, oh. And then Mitch says like, no, there won't be. And then Connie promptly is like, I need to go outside and get some fresh air.
Yep. So she's just out there, and you can tell like this is the first where she's like a little shook.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's very
like
shook.
the gravity of things just hit her, where she's realizing like marrying Mitch means that I marry Mitch, which is something I want to do. It also means that I leave my entire life that I have known up to this point behind me.
So many relationships that have been built and stuff that she would just be completely uprooting from. And, indefinitely. Because, and so, like, and Whit is so good in this conversation. Because Whit comes out to her and talks to her. And we get this really, really sweet conversation where Whit's, like, asking her if this is right for her or if she's just doing it because it's right for Mitch. And he phrases the question. I wish I could remember it like exactly. It's all like, is this what you are meant to be doing? Like is this your calling? Like that Mitch is called to be doing this, but are you called to be doing this
right
for you? Because there's of what I hear, like being an FBI agent is a full-time job, and if you are, congratulations, that's awesome.
Yep.
And if you aren't, it can be very dangerous.
It's another great non-judgmental conversation where he's just like make sure you're thinking about this. And
seriously, that you're actually considering what's happening. It's a really good Whit moment. In that, like, these are definitely opportunities that could be given, and Whit doesn't come out there looking to poke holes or anything like that. Like, he doesn't even
Correct.
Connie is the one initiating the conversation, saying that she has jitters and stuff like that, and Whit ends up concluding the conversation by saying, like, I think that like pre-wedding jitters is like almost necessary. Like, you're totally right to be worried.
Yeah, if you didn't. But and he just mentions Connie's gifting and like, is this, is this what you're called to be? And then Connie brings up the fact that her dad's not going to make it, and asks if Whit would walk her down the aisle, which I love.
Yeah, it's so sweet. Like, and that's why I'm glad that her dad doesn't show up, because that would, like, I don't know if you intentionally used the word robbing earlier, but like that would be robbing Whit of, or robbing the story of this idea of Whit walking Connie down. And
it would have to be played as farce.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this.
And doesn't Whit like respond then to like, I think of you like a daughter and stuff, and like, I'm so proud of you, and it's such a good moment. It's so good.
Yep. And then so our next scene after that is Connie trying to get flowers. She wants lilies, and she ends up calling up the florist you mentioned previously, who specializes in pet funerals. There's a
What?
florist
Yeah.
who specializes
I guess they're
in
in
pet funerals.
I guess they're in DC and there's a business for everything. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just like, pet funerals are a thing. Like, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
But normally they're like cheesy faux things that you do in your backyard.
Right. As in Cinnamon's Wake. I'm just going to keep going with Gilmore Girls references because
Oh.
apparently half this show is that.
Well, that's fine. I'm okay with it.
But yeah, it is yeah, a weird thing. And then there's a fight, but they do end up agreeing to do it. So the pet
Yeah.
funeral place is going to do her flowers. And then Janelle and Joanne are arguing about Bernstein's number.
Oh, yeah.
Joanne wants it. Janelle won't give it.
Yeah.
He apparently has left for Europe, and they're not going to
Yeah.
be able to contact him. And it's this kind of
Thing.
heated argument, and then we leave that scene.
Is that really? I guess that is.
Yeah,
That is what happened.
because the next scene is in the church.
Yeah, and
Which
that's that's the rehearsal before the wedding.
Yep.
We've got George.
They've got
Barkley.
15 minutes.
They've got 15 minutes for the rehearsal for a wedding for what is it, like 50 people or something like that? Not even.
knows?
It's pretty small, but
Yeah,
50
well,
people
well,
is a lot of people.
And yeah, so they're rehearsing that. George clearly doesn't know the limitations beforehand.
Yeah.
And so he's like keeps throwing out this stuff.
Like there's
and,
an organist,
you
there's
know,
no organist or
right,
whatever.
You know who's the ushers. Borland's like, I can be an usher, and then he's like, oh, but I'm also the best man.
Yeah.
He asks about the flower girl, and Connie's just kind of like, there's no flower girl.
Yeah.
Why isn't Michaela the flower girl?
Michaela could totally be the flower. Michaela should be the flower girl.
I fully agree.
It would be a great time for her to shine her new like dress collection.
Uh-huh.
Throw some flowers everywhere.
Yep. I think they just wanted another beat for the joke of nothing is coming together.
And
of
then
this.
Borland being like, I can't do that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very, I mean, I guess the point is of the scene is just like, it's very underprepared. It's very like poor communication. Like it doesn't seem very smooth at all.
Yep. Mitch's phone is ringing throughout it.
Yeah.
And because they're crunched for time, he is talking on the phone, and it's like bad news while George is reading the vows.
Yeah.
Or like the other
He's
part.
he's like giving the
He's doing the ceremony.
yeah.
And
is that when we get
Kazoo guy?
Yeah, is that when we get
Yeah, Kazoo guy barges in and is like, hey, you got to be out of here soon. And then we hear, and so they finish up, and we hear what the phone call that Mitch got was. Him and Borland talking with Connie there, and he got an 89% on his legal exam.
Yeah.
Whereas his acceptance to Budapest was under the assumption that he
was
would
getting
get aces
aces.
on everything. And so now he's like, I might not be going at all.
Yeah, I might be able to go.
And he's broken up about this, and Connie is less broken up about this. And they have a little bit of a fight.
Yeah.
And Mitch definitely like blows things up a little bit. Like he comes in pretty hot. But then
Understandably so, I guess.
but then they're outside and apologizing and working through it when
it's so it's really good. I don't know, like there's so much happening all at once. Like it's almost like anxiety inducing for the listener. But it is really good, and like I think it does a
paints
great
good
job.
picture of the hecticness.
Yeah,
it is both sunny and raining for those of you who can hear.
and it's like the second
rain
time.
in
I
the
think
background.
it happened a week ago. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it happened last Thursday that it was sunny and raining at the same time.
Yeah.
What a
So if you're wondering why
interesting
our
thing.
audio quality just dropped,
Yeah,
sun rain.
sun rain.
So the other, I don't know. The fact that the church has a kazoo choir, I get is a funny bit, but is also nonsense.
Yes, it's nutty,
That
and
is-
it's Handel's Messiah is
Yes,
what they're prepping for. I think it's for Easter. Like they what? And the director is definitely
exactly what you expect.
He's a walking cartoon character.
Yes. Yeah. It's a bit, and that's it. And
It's a good bit. I think it's hilarious.
I like that Odyssey can straddle this line between drama
Yeah.
and absurdity.
Yeah.
It
Well, and it's like it
sometimes
lightens
feels
the
very-
mood pretty well.
can feel pretty incongruous, but
Wooten can't be in every episode.
exactly. So we've got Kazoo Man.
I think he does a good job.
Yeah, I agree. Good
And then-
stand-in Wooten.
From here we go to the scene outside, right, where Mitch gets kidnapped.
They were outside talking.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, like they apologize, and Mitch is kidnapped,
Immediately.
which is what gives us the album artwork
Yeah.
for all of In Hot Pursuit.
Yeah.
Him being pulled off in a black car and Connie running after him.
That's it. I
Which
guess
is
that's interesting.
additionally, I think our only official image of Mitch comes from
this album.
this album artwork as well.
Which is, it's so funny. Like, the album artwork in Odyssey is so weird in that, like, I don't know, we've probably talked about this before, but like, as a kid, I would look at the album artwork and then listen through the album waiting for that scene to happen.
Yep.
And then sometimes it wouldn't. And I was very confused.
And a couple times, many times, it is how the album like goes out.
Yeah.
Like this is the final track. I think the one from the big picture is like the very end.
Yeah.
The one from
Battle Lines.
Yeah.
Is the
other one I
tower
was
coming
thinking
down,
of,
which is like that's the second to last episode
Yeah.
or third to last episode. Yeah, it's nutty. That's for sure. And so Connie freaks out. Mitch like presumably, like you said that last week, Bon Voyage jumps out of the car and is like, "Hello, FBI man,"
FBI man,
and then just drags him away. Connie freaks out, runs after them with a tire iron.
Well, she actually hops into Joanne's car.
Oh.
Because she's on the phone she's trying to get a hold of Borland. She ends up talking to Joanne.
Yeah.
Tells her that she's chasing after them. Asks if Borland, or not if Borland, if
Borland's
Jack. Oh, she asks for Borland, but she asks if Jack keeps a tire iron. They pull off to the side. She pulls off after them and attacks.
Yeah, she's like, "Okay, here you go," and then just goes, "Ah!" and charges at them from presumably too far away. Like I'm in my head like 30 feet of running at least between her and them, and she's just running, yelling with tire iron, and presumably.
Yeah. Oh, and Borland has called her back at this point. And
Yeah.
She hangs up on it.
Yeah.
Right
she's like,
before she
"Connie,
charges.
like, wait, let me explain." And then she just hangs up and then charges with a tire iron and then starts beating people up and presumably kicking people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nuts.
It is crazy. And we then find out that the kidnappers reveal that
They're Mitch's coworkers.
Yep. That they're other FBI agents.
And that
this
Connie
is
beat the
tradition.
crap out of them.
Yep. This is the tradition. Oh, and she catches that. She's like, "Wait, you're Philip Bernstein."
Yeah. Yeah. Got him. Yeah, I feel. Oh my.
Which, like, I guess he just wasn't gonna come to Mitch's wedding because that would have been awkward.
Oh my lord. What a powerful image.
Oh man.
Anyway, yeah, and so Connie's like, I think she's embarrassed, but also like very upset. And Mitch is kind of like, "Oh yeah, it's a tradition, it's a joke, and whatever." And Connie's like, "Wasn't a joke to me."
Yeah. Yep. And then we go to the conversation between the Borlands and Joanne and Connie.
Yeah.
Explaining the situation with Bernstein and what was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So basically, what had happened was, Janelle had heard Joanne talk about how much she cared about this church in Sri Lanka. Which is that a real place?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a real place. I'm dumb.
Yes.
Yeah, about this church in Sri Lanka, and they were inspired, so they decided to go camping this year, and instead using their vacation money, which they had budgeted for Hawaii,
Right.
to put towards the church. They told their friends. Their friends felt the same way. They matched it because they were planning on going to Hawaii as well, and that's how they got the $12,000.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. So this was the Hawaiian vacation teased in Pink Is Not My Color.
Yep.
Where they're all doing all the Hawaii stuff because
Yep.
they're excited about this. And the extra on top of that, because like you know that Oh wait, that wasn't even Pink is Not. That was the previous.
Yeah,
episode.
that was something
previous
Blue Part
episode
One.
where
Grass
where
skirt.
where they're talking about that the grass skirt, and so you know that Michaela is really excited about it. Like you saw that in the last episode, and they bring up that it was her idea.
Yeah.
To
To
not
do it.
do this, to not do this vacation. Instead, just go camping, take that money, put it away.
Yeah.
And then they also mention that. So this other family is the Pergastats.
That's definitely a medical term.
Interesting.
Definitely one.
and there, so she brings up that in addition to them putting in their vacation money because they were going to go along,
They put in
on
a
the
little bit
way,
extra, right?
They put in extra because they had sold a collar to the Smithsonian, which we heard in the previous
background,
episode,
yeah, because
as they're
the
leaving,
lady who kept
'cause-
mispronouncing
Yep,
collar or
Kathy
something.
Buchanan,
Didn't she
as
say
the
colon?
secretary kept saying colon instead of collar
Oh boy.
in the previous one, and so there's this beautiful moment
Yeah.
where we realize, oh, they came in right after her. That's really funny.
Yeah, it is a really good moment of that. Oh, it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. I'm glad that you picked up on it too because I wasn't sure if you would.
Yep.
Shoot. What happens after this?
So our next bit is Mitch and Connie talking.
Oh, yeah.
They're headed out for something again, and I think they're headed out for dinner. I think this must be the same day as the rehearsal. And they're getting dinner that night.
Yeah.
To kind of finish up plans and whatever else for the wedding the next day, and so she's just going through, the stuff, and Mitch is very is so excited
About Budapest.
about Budapest, because that's the other thing is, it's not quite at this point. The Budapest thing comes later because he still doesn't think he's getting in.
Yeah.
But he's so excited about the fake kidnapping.
Yeah.
That energized him so much. He was so excited to see Connie hold her own.
Yeah. He was like, you did great. Like I seeing you like this makes me know that we're going to be a great team and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Connie has this line where she's like, our relationship has been 90% action adventure and only 10% romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Connie's like, but I want
want
the romantic comedy stuff. I don't want to be worrying whether or not you're going to come home at night.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. And she has this great comment about thinking that somehow it was going to be abnormally normal being married to him.
That her
he was gonna do
crazy
his thing
life was going to
during
be a
the
day job. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That all of that nonsense would happen during the day, and then they'd come home and be like a normal couple, and she's realizing that that's not
the
going to
case.
be it. And it's just, there's a couple points at which she starts to say something, and then Mitch shrubs in with yeah, but isn't it and Connie's like, no, listen to me. And it's such a good, mature move that we don't see in a lot of stuff. Media in general, much less this.
Yeah,
and
in real life, we don't see it all the time.
Yeah, it's not her blowing up on him.
No.
It's just her being like, listen to me, Mitch. This is where I'm at. We need to reconcile this, and we're going to do it level-headedly rather than blowing up on each other and regretting it.
Yeah, or throwing ourselves forward as opposed to looking back and recognize the situation for what it is.
Yeah, and the line where I was finally like, I think this episode is great, is her line of, I don't want to be an afterthought.
Yeah. No, for
That
sure.
line is so good.
It is really good. I have a different favorite line in the episode that comes later.
Okay.
It's
that's allowed. But
it's so good though.
But,
This is
yeah,
so well written, and it's so well built. Was it last episode or 2 episodes ago where she kind of sneaks into his house and tries to play
last
housewife?
episode, yes.
And it doesn't go well. And not only does it not go well execution wise, but He shows up late. He's very scatterbrained, can't really give her much attention. You know, like, and then the dinner doesn't work. Like,
Yep.
Yeah. It's so good how she comes to this point and how she kind of like, she's heard it. She's been told it enough that this is how things are. And she's agreed to it in her head, but now that she's experienced it, she's like, oh, this is different and difficult in a way that I thought that I was okay with, but not really.
Yeah.
And like, it's so like, yeah, so they
the crux of this is her saying, like, look, like, if Budapest was back on the table but I didn't want it, like, what would you do?
Yeah, and to which Mitch doesn't have an answer. He kind of goes like, this is an unfair question, and like,
and then his phone rings.
Yeah.
And Budapest is back on the table. He's going.
And she doesn't want to.
And Connie's just kind of like,
there's your
there
answer.
you have it. Like, that's the answer. Because Mitch is so immediately excited because it is absolutely what he's supposed to do. Like, we can't hit that hard enough, people. Like, that is...
He's not doing the wrong thing by doing this. Like...
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And so difficult, but so good.
So, yeah.
It hurts so good.
Yeah. And then they call it off.
Yep.
They're like,
they call it off. Will you disengage me?
Yeah.
Or will you not marry me or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so good. Oh.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah. I think Connie says, can you want to disengage us then? And he says, you know.
Yeah. Will you not marry me?
Connie Kendall, will you not marry me? And she says, I won't.
Yeah.
And it's
sort of like
brutal,
choking up and like
beautiful.
Goes out on that line.
Kaylee
kills it.
Yeah, as does frickin' Steve Burns.
Yeah.
They're so good in this moment.
So good.
And it sold so well. You can see the pain of it, but also the resign and this fact that they know that this is the end, like it's not gonna happen now.
Yeah.
But that it's the right decision.
Yeah, and it's just, and it's from here that we go to the wedding, right?
Yeah, so they decide to have a non-wedding.
Like a mock wedding almost.
Yeah, just like a party because they've already got all the stuff.
Yeah, but they like throw the flowers and stuff like that, and
yeah.
And Connie talks to Whit briefly about what happened.
Well, yeah,
right?
Yeah. Does she? I don't know that she talks to.
No, she talks. Is it Whit? Well, who does she talk to? She's like, I didn't think I'd be throwing a.
Oh yeah, okay. She
a
does.
mock wedding.
Yeah, I think she does talk to it here, but the thing that really stood out to me is, like, I don't.
Oh, it's after the wedding.
Okay,
it's after
yes.
the not wedding
Yes.
when she is going with, going back with Whit that she's kind of like really broken up about it.
But also, on a less weighty note, who are these people at the wedding?
I don't know. There's 50 people that made it out there. I have no clue.
Yeah, it's weird. Because, I mean, it's the same problem that every show has when it comes to a wedding of just like, oh, we only see these characters interact with each other, so who do you put there?
Yeah.
But the fact that Jack's not there is the one that sticks out the most to me.
Yeah.
Because they... Like, I'm sure it's an actor thing where they just couldn't get him for the episode.
Couldn't get him in the room.
And that's fine. But, like, we even end with, there's, like, a comment about Joanne driving back alone.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Joanne driving back alone.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if Jack had just shown up, then they could have driven back together.
Yeah.
But, anyways, it is just a weird thing of, like, there are all these people.
Why wouldn't Jack be here?
Yeah.
Why is George Barkley here and Jack isn't?
Yeah. He's there for Jimmy.
Yeah.
Did Jimmy get to come to the wedding? No.
No. We'd have to get that voice actor for another episode, and that'd be too difficult.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I understand it logistically. It's just,
totally.
Yeah, it's just a hard thing to look at if you're treating this as a real world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, they're having this wedding party.
Yeah.
And then
Whit and Connie break down afterwards, right?
Yeah, well, so before that, we actually have the scene of Connie taking Mitch to the airport.
Oh, that's before.
Yeah, because we end
Okay.
on the scene of
With
Whit and Connie
yes,
in the
yes,
car.
yes, yes.
Because it's Connie says bye to Mitch in the airport, and
Yeah.
it's emotional and
Yeah.
it's really good.
Um,
But she's like keeping it together.
She's keeping it together, and before we get past that, this is my favorite point in the episode where Connie like is talking to Mitch, and she's like, "So God brought you into my life, like I believe that, and I believe that like that God's taking you out of it, like you're doing the right thing by not being with me and by following your calling." And that doesn't mean that this was a waste. Yes. We've both learned so much about ourselves and each other. This has been so good and valuable. Yeah. And for Connie to say that is really, like, she is so mature in this moment in a way that, like, I wish Mitch had been more mature as well, in that, like, I get it, it's a short episode. Well, it's a long episode that couldn't really afford to be longer, but like Mitch is 100% FBI in his motives in this episode, and it isn't really emotionally available to Connie at all. And obviously, like, that's part of the problem. But in this moment, like, I would like to hear it come from Mitch, but it doesn't make it any less good. It's so good. It's such a great, important thing that I think we underappreciate, or like that is underrepresented, especially in Christian culture where marriage is the end goal of all dating ever. And myself personally, like, I've like dated a decent bit, and well, I'm not married, so did I do the wrong thing? I don't think so.
Yeah,
like
it built you to where you are right now. Like, it's not as though that stuff is a waste. Yeah. And yeah, I really appreciate that from this episode, that we get that, like,
it's so not focused on the family, and I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Well done, Kathy. Like, you nailed it with this.
And like, now that you said that, like, I can totally imagine her writing that and just sobbing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Good Lord. Especially because it was right before her own wedding.
Yeah. Yep.
And so then we have this conversation with Whit and Connie in the car, where Connie's kind of hit with the weight of everything that's happened. Yeah.
We get a little bit. I think this might still even be in the Mitch scene, but where Connie explains that I think she's talking to Mitch and mentions that that Whit and her mom are gonna fly back, and Joanne's driving back alone, and that she's going to stay in D.C. for another week and just kind of be on her own.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good call as well.
Yeah.
But
it's an interesting, like, human phenomena that after giant life change that we just kind of want to go out on our own.
Yeah.
And I guess it's, like, kind of the quintessential, like, find yourself thing, but, like, it's a thing that real people do all the time.
Well, yeah. And on top of that, something that I can resonate with a lot and is addressed in a later episode called Eggshells is her just not wanting to go back and face all of her friends and family who are, like, hearing about this, like, second or third hand.
Yeah.
Like,
I resonate.
She just, like, oh, dude, telling, like, not the people you're close to, but the people you're, like, tangentially related to about a breakup is the worst.
Yeah.
Because they've got to find out somehow.
Yeah.
But that conversation is never fun.
Yeah.
Because you
like,
can't get into enough detail.
Yeah.
But you also, like, but it's also a big change.
Oh, no,
that, like,
I'm so
has to
sorry.
be-
Yeah.
Yeah. That they have to be aware of, because they are in your life, but you're not close to where you want to have, like, this get into the nitty gritty. And so it's
like,
it's
I heard about
so-
you and Mitch, and I'm like, yeah, did you hear about the fact that I went on a personal, like, Odyssey and found myself and realized that my goal that I want for my life is separate from, him in this circumstance, and
But also, like, I really, like, it's really hurt me to,
yeah, it's
like, end
torn
this
me apart
relationship.
because
I
I
loved him a
genuinely care
lot.
about him,
Yeah.
and he was dead for a while, and that was rough. And
Yeah.
like, what is it like for him to be gone?
And speaking of him being dead, this car scene that we then go to perfectly parallels the scene with Connie and Mitch after she discovers.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, the scene with Connie and Whit after she hears about Mitch's death, where they're just in the car and she's sobbing.
Yeah.
And she has, it's really
It's so
good.
emotional.
We've
Oh
learned-
my lord.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Her quote is, we've learned a lot about who we are and what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think that's talking to Mitch.
Yeah.
But it carries through into this conversation. But like, I love that with Mitch, she's got this like this clear, like, I know, like, this was the right move and this is what we're called to and all of that. But then she's back with the comfort of Whit and allows herself to just be sad.
Yeah.
Because she is. Like, you can both think something is for the best and be broken
very
up
sad.
by it.
Yeah. Oh,
and I
yeah.
love that this episode portrays that.
Well, and also to have the like, I've felt that way after every single one of my breakups, and I said that like there's not that many, but like
You got me beat.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's so very real in the sense that like the whole we learn about ourselves along the way through the struggles normally ends in a happy ending in something like Odyssey,
Right.
and this it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't end like Mitch is gone. Like a character that has been introduced and built over albums and years, that is beloved and iconic, is gone. And there's nothing else to say about that fact. And I like how they don't really mince words about it, and they just kind of let it be rough. And the Something Gray episodes, which while I don't remember, I think it's very interesting that they let Connie be sad.
Yeah.
And like explore that, like
Living in the Gray.
yeah. Oh, was it? What
You
did I
said
say?
Something Gray.
Oh.
That's this episode.
Yeah.
Not Something Blue. But yeah, it is great that they allow her to work through that at her own pace and don't just throw her back into an episode and say,
Yeah,
you're the same person now. Go be that person.
yeah. It's real good.
Yeah.
And then we get a Chris wrap up where she's talking about just kind of doing the right thing and like what God has for you. And
I think the Chris wrap up actually like worsens the episode.
oh, for sure, it
Like-
shoehorns a certain like super biblical imposal that's not even put there by Whit.
Right.
Like-
And it does it in a way that is Connie didn't make like a difficult choice and have to juggle this. There was a clear thing that she was supposed to do and she did it.
Yeah.
And that didn't feel great.
No.
But
It felt very cold and like distant and
yes. Yeah,
unempathetic.
it did just feel like a weird juxtaposition of
Yeah.
like, hey, we've gone through some really complex stuff. So let's hit it all as simply as we possibly can.
Even though that's not how it should happen.
Yeah.
Um
I'm gonna read this next
Yeah, go for
segment because so one of the huge things post this episode is how much people love Connie and Mitch and fans, coming together to try and make more Connie and Mitch happen and all of that stuff. And there's a good Kathy Buchanan quote that is her addressing the fans, and it's, I tell them that it will happen when Ronald McDonald becomes a vegetarian, Starbucks runs out of money, and the Chicago Bulls win the Super Bowl. And yes, I know that they're a basketball team. Seriously though, we wouldn't want to put fans through the torture of having Mitch return without him and Connie getting married. And we want Connie to stay single, at least for the time being. Which is, her kind of fan addressment, which is ironic because at somewhere around the time I bailed on the show, Mitch does make a return with a fiance.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
So, someone he met in Budapest or
Yeah.
another foreign country, and they're gonna get married. Because it's in the episode where Connie and Wooten accidentally. Connie is taking pictures with Wooten to promote Dreams by Constance.
Yes,
and accidentally sends it out to all of her friends in like the classic email trope, and then Mitch ends up popping in for that, and that is the last time we see him. But he is in 2 more episodes after this. For the longest time, this was it, and they were like, we are completely closing the door to Mitch so that fans will stop asking us.
Yeah, they did a good job, I will say. So there's 4 episodes of Connie and Mitch Aftermath, which is Novacom Aftermath.
There's 5, because there's
Something
Living in the
Gray.
Gray, Part 1 and Part 2, Eggshells.
Oh,
And then the 2-part where Mitch comes back.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, God. Can't do it.
Okay. There's one other note from the guide that was actually way back in a note in album 39 that at the time made me mad, and I'm now actually like, I have more respect for this quote.
Oh dear.
But I couldn't read it then because we're playing this show as much as we can as though we don't have knowledge of greater context.
Yeah.
Especially when we're covering things coming up. Obviously, we're not covering Connie and Mitch's reunion, so I just spoiled it.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. So yeah, here we go. And this is not noted who's writing, so it's Hubler.
Okay.
So when Mitch returned to Odyssey in exactly as planned, we had to decide if we wanted Connie and Mitch to get married. When they first started dating, we thought they might. As time went on, we decided they shouldn't stay together permanently. Eugene and Katrina had recently gotten married, and we wanted Connie to stay young and single for a little longer. But how should Connie and Mitch break up? In the end, Mitch got an offer from the FBI, and his final decision signaled the end of their relationship.
Ew.
So yes, they decided that that for plot reasons, they didn't want Connie and Mitch to be together.
Yeah, the
so they
meta arc.
introduced the FBI to break them up.
Yes.
Which at the time, like reading that when we were covering the first FBI episode, I was mad because
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, you're just throwing this roadblock in the way." But like, they do actually develop the story, and it's not as though the FBI exists just as a roadblock.
Yeah.
But it is funny because we experience things as they're coming out, whereas this was clearly a
They had an ending and they worked backwards from it,
right.
which is impressive considering.
Well, it's like, it makes sense. Like, you're looking at these 2 people and you're like, what is our end game for them? And they decide our end game is that they break up. So they have
Go back
to...
in time to when Mitch was alive.
Hilarious. The end game is that...
Endgame. Stop saying endgame.
I hate you. But that... What?
I don't know. You can
way
say
this-
endgame.
The way this is going to wrap up is by the 2 of them breaking up.
Yes.
So we need to put the steps in place to where that feels like it pays off emotionally, and they do.
Really well.
But as a listener, you're like, it's so much will they, won't they? And then you're like, oh no, they decided this episode that they won't. And it's like, obviously that's not how shows are written.
No,
But I
yeah.
did just have that twinge of like, ah.
Ew, no. Why did you decide that so nonchalantly?
Yes.
I love these characters.
Yeah.
Well, and like...
But I understand logistically the idea of Eugene just got married. Connie's like our audience surrogate who's single. Like, let's keep her that way.
Yeah. Well, and the larger, like, post-Novacom Connie going on a sort of, like, personal odyssey of finding herself and, like, it's... I mean, it is a coming-of-age story, I would say.
Yeah.
In that respect. And then it kind of finishes out that way. And whether it was intended to be that or not, I don't know. But it was it certainly accomplishes that. And I'm looking back at it now, like, I have so much respect for them because they spread that out over, like, what, 2 albums?
3?
3 albums.
This is because, 39, 40, and 41.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
And obviously Mitch and Connie stuff goes back to like it was like a 6-album arc or something, or
Yeah.
7. Like
Probably 7, I think.
it goes back to very early on that he's introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which brings us to a perfect point to close on, of just like kind of a retrospective on their relationship, kind of like we did at the end of Novacom, which is just like they like I love this relationship in the show.
I love it more as an adult than I did as a child.
I enjoyed it quite a bit as a child because I have in general a strong attachment to like relationship arcs.
Yeah.
That's just for whatever reason a thing that's always drawn me in, and as a younger person, I really tried to play down how much I loved that sort of thing, because that was like more of an effeminate thing that like I didn't want to be identified alongside. And now I'm like, I don't know, I'm perfectly comfortable
Yeah, I'm
saying
perfectly
like,
comfortable.
I love the romance of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Like that's not
Oh my lord, yeah.
that's not what I go to everything looking for, but like
Oh,
done
no,
well,
no, yeah.
it is a delight.
Sweet, sweet, juicy relationship romance arcs are so good. They're so good.
And yeah, so I love all the steps this show takes from like I love the amount of room they give it to play. And I mean they did a similar thing with Eugene and Katrina, where that is not particularly a quick relationship either.
No, yeah.
But the problem is that kind of like hits its peak, like their wedding is all off screen and like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I feel like we got to see every step, and
It is completely fleshed out.
yeah, we see
In a
all
unique
of
way.
it, and it doesn't end in the easy way.
Of them getting married.
Like it would be easier. I think it's easier to write a wedding than a breakup.
Oh, for sure.
Like as the way to end a character, or like to end an arc.
Well, and especially for them when they totally could. Like, it's just, this is a beloved actor. This is a beloved character. Like, everybody wanted them to get married, and then they were like, nah, ain't gonna do
like,
that.
Steve Burns is not going anywhere. He's Rodney for quite some time still. Like, they absolutely could have. But I love that they made the call of, like where we want Connie to be is not...
And who we want her to be.
Right, and who we want her to be is not with Mitch. Because back at the beginning, like back in, our early episodes of covering post-Novacom, where Mitch is like, decides he's going to do a computer startup and like fix people's computers. Like, it could have just been that.
Yeah,
he does
totally
that. Connie works at Wits End. They get married. Eventually, they have kids. Like all of that stuff.
Yeah,
but like I love that the show actually gave us developments, conflict resolution, but also like underlying stuff that never really gets resolved.
Yeah,
like it is so well built, and it's such a testament to Kathy Buchanan and what she brought to the show, because I mean she was brought in and
for this.
Basically for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not to say that other people didn't do stuff and weren't great as well, but like I have
she killed it.
Such a respect
Absolutely
for her.
killed it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, it's a really good arc.
It is. It's exceptional. It stands out for me personally, and like not only Odyssey, but like just greater media consumption in my entire life. I think about this. Like it was pivotal in my youth, I think, as portraying this like not all relationships end happily ever after.
Yeah.
I mean, like on a more personal note, my dad married his high school sweetheart, and so did my older sister. Yep. And so I always kind of thought that anything less than that was a failure. And
hey, I can relate to that statement. My parents as well met in high school.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so, I was in a similar vein of like, that is the expectation.
Yeah, if you don't...
The first person you date, you marry, and everything goes great.
Yep, and anything else is a failure. Yep. Because you weren't good enough, or you didn't love Jesus enough.
Yeah. And so I appreciate this show for showing us a complex relationship that I enjoyed as a child and appreciate as an adult.
Oh, yeah. I have a Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have a greater appreciation for this now, than I ever did before.
I think there were plot points and stuff that stuck with me from then until now, but I think going forward, this, like, the emotional arcs and that sort of thing it's genuinely going to be a thing that I think about, which is really cool. And, like, I'm glad we got to
that we got to talk about it.
rediscover that.
Yeah.
Together. You got anything in the plug department for?
Nah, man, I'm plug free.
All right. Well, I have a very exciting plug that I have been dying and trying to do for months, not been in limbo.
You have no idea.
This has been really long in the making, but I earlier this spring got to record a guest spot on one of my favorite podcasts. It's called Whelmed, The Young Justice Files. It is a show that does incredible in-depth breakdowns of the TV show Young Justice, which aired on Cartoon Network, Andrew's favorite, for 2 years.
My favorite, not my parents.
before getting revived, and is now airing on DC Universe. And I love that. I love the animated show. I love talking about comics, and I love Whelmed. And so it was such an honor to be invited onto that show and get to record an episode talking with Rich about the DC comic group, The Outsiders. And so on the off chance that you guys, that there's anyone in our audience,
I think that there's some overlap. There's got to be at least like one or two.
I mean, seriously, email or tweet at us if you're in the middle of this Venn diagram between Young Justice and Odyssey. Or if you happen to be listening to this episode right now because you listened to my Whelmed interview. I don't know. That could happen. Like,
it'd be great. Welcome.
I mean, just write to me if it's something that you enjoy, because I am, like, regardless of who listens to the Whelmed thing and whether or not there's any, I'm so excited to have done it.
Yeah.
And for it to be out there. It sounds great. And yeah, I'll obviously put a link in the description, but, go.
I'm going to go listen to it. I know nothing about The Outsiders. So I'm going to go listen to it.
Yeah, you guys can
join me.
Can go listen to it. For me, if you think I'm that great, you shouldn't. But
you do.
or if you like DC Comics or anything like that. Also, if you haven't seen the show Young Justice, you should, because it's
very good,
fantastic.
It's dynamite.
Yeah. So that's all I've got.
That's all she wrote, man. That's it.
I finally got my big plug.
I know.
I think I have referenced the fact that there's like
something coming.
A big plug coming a couple times, and like this is it.
Yeah.
So
when was the original record date?
I think we recorded in. Oh, well, so we had initially set up to record in December.
Yeah.
And I think we even talked a little bit about that in my episode of that show, but we had to reschedule because of issues on both of our ends like a dozen times, and ended up recording in like late February or maybe even March.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
After we had like initially talked about the idea in like September or October, like it has been a crazy journey to get from the initial discussion with Rich about recording that episode to putting it out into the world. And I'm just so...
Have you listened to it?
So stoked. I have not yet. I'm going to.
It's out?
But it is out.
Currently.
It is currently out.
Dang.
As you and I record and as the audience listens, the episode is in the universe.
And it's...
for public consumption.
Whelmed. How do you spell that? Whelmed?
Yeah.
Just one E at the end.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. That stutter notwithstanding, yes.
Okay.
That is the...
Awesome.
That is...
I am 100% going to listen to that. Thank goodness.
So, yeah. I'm... Yeah. So glad that's... Yeah.
That's a thing.
Go listen to it. Okay, I'm done. I'm done rambling on about that.
You deserve to ramble.
And yeah,
We'll be back next week.
Yeah, so we are taking a nice 30-episode leap into the future to cover the finale of Novacom in some ways. I don't know, the end of it.
It's the finale of Novacom.
Yeah, which is from the album Eugene Returns, and we will be listening to we'll be discussing episode 564, A Most Intriguing Question. Bye, guys.
We're almost done. Not really. We have more stuff.
Yeah, we'll maybe get into that next episode.
Or we could do it right now.
Nah.
Bye.
WadFam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at WadFamChalkPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Episode 40, Something Blue Part 2, was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Osebo, and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us next time for more of the WadFam Chalk Pod.